Mr. President, thank you for giving me the opportunity to join this debate. Let me begin by thanking the Honorable Kamala Prasad-Bissessar for her historic response to Budget 2024 the other place. I commend her timely intervention, her presentation of clear policies, plans, and a specific blueprint and call to action, which demonstrated that with the right leadership, Trinidad and Tobago can indeed be a place of equity, peace, and prosperity. Mr. President, I just listened to our Senator Hislop, and well, he's a Tobagonian. He's Tobagonian. If it's one thing, all Tobagonians love Tobago, okay? We come built like that. We have that commonality that we all love Tobago. But in talking about the 4.03, this percentage of the national budget, I hope you know this was confirmed and approved under United National Congress government. So at least the Tobago administration can be very predictable. This was fought for by Mr. Ho-Choi Charles and others. And, you know, we really have to, when we are speaking on a topic, I think we must bring the whole truth and nothing but the truth. Because I'll also include, that, you see, this PNM, I like to say this PNM and differentiate, believe that politics is or government is a zero-sum game, and that they show up here and they are here forever. It's a relay. So therefore, the former Prime Minister would have been a part of it. And then when Mr. Pandey came in, they just continued. And they got this, this predictable amount approved at the time. Now I know the Honorable Senator, I cannot speak for the current Tobago House of Assembly because it could be post-traumatic stress. I too have suffered from that, I lose too. So I understand, you know, what is probably happening. But at least I think one must commend and congratulate them for doing a differentiated product in terms of having a carnival in October when there's a carnival in Trinidad in February or March, as it were. So we must wish them all the best because we all love Tobago, as it were. Now, the other point, there's another point raised by, I think, Senator Ibrahim, when he was talking about the increase in, I think, arrival here, some kind of 300%. And I don't know, maybe we are missing something on this side. Maybe we are the ones living in Trinidad and Tobago and the others are living in some la-la land somewhere. But 300%, that is all relative, quite frankly. Because, and I'm not blaming the Minister of Tourism either, because they take his seat, you understand? He has no control over these things. It's about government business way above his pay grade. You know, there's an increase of arrivals from 68,000 to 198,000. And these folks who have dumbed down our expectations, you understand, have us literally whining below the white line in the road in terms of having setting low expectation, want us to clap for that. Yes, 300% sounds big. But when you compare that to what is happening in Singapore after the, after COVID, because Singapore has a population of over 6 million, about 40% of that are expatriates. They are expecting, they have projected 68 million arrivals for this year. All right, with 100 planes coming in there and 240 destination connections. Why that can't be us? When you look at where we are in terms of, Mr. Conrad, Alion used to talk a lot about hub and spoke and so on. That is available to us and we have to build our expectation. Similarly, in Dubai, the same thing is happening in Dubai, where they too have 100 airlines coming in. They're expecting, they had predicted 83 million arrivals. You know what they put it up to now? 85 million. And to me, to say, since the year 2001, when that airport was opened, the throughput was supposed to be 3 million. We are 2.5. We should be pushing, this is about over 20 years. And we are still here talking about 300% being, 250,000 or some kind of arrivals like that. No, we shouldn't quote those statistics. I think really and truly, we have to do a lot better than that. We are better than that, and Trinidad and Tobago has a lot to offer. Everybody could find something to do in this country, right? Something of interest. We are rich in so many things, right? And that's not because of the PNM, it's because of all of us as a people. So, Mr. President, We find ourselves at this inflection point with many families in our nation struggling to put food on their table, to pay bills, and to find a job. Mr. President, to find a job. You know, the speaker who preceded me was talking about the minimum wage, but I asked him to go and live on $17.50 per hour. You know, before it was increased to, $20.50. You had to work a whole hour to buy a loaf of bread in the bakery. You understand? People who have better, they are doing better, they're living lavishly, want to tell people that they should be satisfied with $20.50 an hour. Because that is all they deserve. That's all they deserve. That's what they want to tell us. In 2023, that is all we deserve. You understand? And I think that is really a shame. We shouldn't come here and do that. We shouldn't come here and try to justify things that make no sense. When we do know that our people are suffering out there. They're suffering, and this is not doom and gloom. Many people are all of the above, Mr. President, yet the government, they make no connection, not with their policies, not with their processes, their articulation, because they all come here and dying and talking about how great they are and so on. Nothing demonstrates that they understand, neither do they appear to care about what our citizens face every single day. Mr. President, the UNC was mandated by the Honorable Campbell Bissessa to attend consultations all across the country. Because we are afraid of the people. We go to the people. We are not afraid. We don't care what they say. You know, they just cuss us up sometimes just the way they cuss up the PNM. But we go out there to the people. I mean, I remember the Honorable Minister of Finance in the other place saying, UNC talking to themselves. You know why? Because the PNM feel UNC people ain't worth nothing. Our people, 300,000 who voted for us, they are not worthy of consideration. But at least we go out there and we speak to the people. We are not going to come here with policies that are not reflective of the people. And that is why they don't know people suffering, you know. Because they don't talk to anybody. You know, when you see them, they are hustling, going with their security guard and their blue lights and so on. So they don't know. They don't know. So they're the ones talking to themselves. So, Mr. President, I didn't come here to talk for me particularly. I came to speak for those who really are not able to talk for themselves. They can't come here because, as our leader put it, you know, in this highfalutin place. So, Mr. President, you see they sung the alarm.
I understand. Senator Mark. Members. So, just as a reminder, Senator Mark, Senator Rupp, let there be silence in this chamber. I am on my legs. All I expect is silence. All I expect is silence. We are well aware of the rule in relation to devices going off in the chamber when members are contributing. At this point in time, my only intention is to remind members of such. The next time, we will just follow the rule as has always been the case. As for the crosstalk, I don't expect to have any. We've been doing quite well during this budgetary process, and I expect it to continue. Senator John, continue.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, Senator Lizama on Friday reminded us that indeed the government had a vision 2030, which caused me to look it up because it's the world's best kept secret and none of the colleagues have been kind of aligning it with their presentations. And that was in an attempt to find the context because the budget statement, as usual, has no accountability, no clear strategic intent. And as Senator Barkas told us, his mother had urged him, when you're leaving home, you have to know where you're going. Similarly, we say in management, if a ship doesn't know to which port it is sailing, any wind will take it there. What you would have expected in this government, 7 years, I'm talking now about in terms of their goalposts with their Vision 2030, because they're halfway there, that in every budget there's embedded a status in their annual presentation that shows us that we are going further along. Because, Mr. President, contrary to their stated views that the opposition is about doom and gloom, nothing could be further from the truth. When a government is in office for 8 years and counting, having spent $500 billion, and they have nothing to show, even when they run down the road posing and think about the open highway. You know, they are not only wasting, you know, they are wasting the country's time and resources. So once the government assumes office democratically, every citizen should wish them well, because my grandmother used to say, a rising tide raise every boat, and even if the devil bring it, is God send it. So we happy for it, you understand? We wish them well. So Mr. President, the government has identified the challenges facing the country as follows, and I will not read all. I'll urge them to go and read their Vision 2030. I'll just treat with what is relevant. And they started by saying, following a review of Trinidad and Tobago's past and current performance against selected countries, I don't know which countries, in key source, because if they're comparing themselves, they're arriving 68,000. I don't know who I don't want to call any of our Caribbean neighbors or what have you, who they're comparing themselves with, but whatever. The National Development Strategy presents the main challenges which Trinidad and Tobago faces. And they said expanding exports and increasing foreign exchange earnings and employment. That's a good challenge, they're correct. Solve it, so one will want to know in 2023, halfway to your promised land, where have we reached in terms of this increasing foreign exchange, your quest of increased foreign exchange and employment. And that has nothing to do with this bogus 3.7% that is being put there. You know? And then we see, you see, my God is real. You know, there you have on the Saturday papers, 1,000 people show up at C3 for some 48 seconds ad, not for jobs, you know, for the promise that maybe, could be, we got to take down your name. Yet they are in here, and I think I heard this center before, they're talking about the 3.7%. That is literally full employment in economics. What that means is everybody who wants to work, get to work. You understand? And employers are looking and looking. But there you are having, and the job not even in Port of Spain, you know, or in Toco, you know, the jobs are where? In Guyana, right? And 1,000 block up the road, traffic jam, and so on. Police has to come, and they're here, and they're repeating this thing. You know, it's bogus. It's not true. It's not true. Okay? That's not full employment. Because prior to that, even if as a minister somebody had given me that, prior to that I would have seen people sleeping overnight in front of Napa to get a job on a cruise ship. You know, for a few jobs in the prison service, people all over the pavement. It tells you something is not right. So then who has to tell them? Is the guy who was organizing the arrangement say, it must be that there's an issue with employment in Trinidad and Tobago. Better the Minister of Finance forget this CSO people and go and talk to that fellow who was organizing those jobs, right? I think he has it right. So they have on their challenges, reversing the non-progressive values, attitudes, and behaviors, such as low productivity and poor work ethos. Where are we with that? Undertaking constitutional and institutional reform. Well, good luck with that. Addressing the impact of shale gas, and one is seeing where America is now the largest producer, basically, and so we have some real issue in terms of the price of gas. Discouraging the culture of dependency and sense of entitlement among the population. What they have done, Mr. President, essentially, is to wean the vulnerable of the treasury and instead siphoning they're parachuting their friends, family, and finances. That is what they meant by discouraging the culture of dependency. And so on and so on. I recommend that the members go and read their challenges. So, Mr. President, after the minister in the other place would have read his budget for 4 hours, really and truly, I saw nowhere where they are mitigating against these challenges. I saw his budget, his name, what? Building capacity for diversification and growth. But nowhere in that rehash, nowhere is there any reference of alignment with his government's vision. No cohesive plans for diversification and growth. Just a rinse and repeat of proposals and intentions from prior years, none of which has really materialized. None. And when they even go and open a little piece of the highway, before they say, thank you, Kamla, they spend over 2 hours talking God knows what. You understand? Just say, thank you, Kamla. Yeah. You understand? Because without her, they would have nothing to open. They have nothing to open. Without the UNC, they would have had no Arima hospital. Yes. They would have had no Point 40 hospital. And even when the key was on the desk of the Prime Minister, when he walked from Mason Hall to Whitehall, they didn't do that until there was COVID. And that too was a major part of a bigger plan, because healthcare is big business. It creates good paying jobs and a big earner of Forex. For example, just jump on your head, sit down and dance with some dragon, not just waste some, well, I mean, it might come true, I hope it does, but I'm saying we have to put other things in place whilst we wait on the Lord, and we are being of good courage, Mr. President. Mr. President, the leader of the opposition in her legendary and historic response, to the She told us that there can be no prosperity without security. She told us, and that's a fact. There can be. So last year, a record of 600 of our citizens were brutally murdered. That is the statistic you have to be looking at, not 3.7. The statistic is 600 of our citizens were murdered, of which the police is saying they are, what is the detection rate? 12%. So it means that out of every 100, they're solving 12. And then you have 88 walking with their ghosts, waiting to kill again. Living nice, you know. And that is a statistic we have to look at, because without security, there can be no prosperity. So worse still, Mr. President, brazen home invasions are now a daily occurrence in our communities. It has become an everyday occurrence where criminals are breaking down citizens' door. Mothers are beaten. Teenage daughters are raped. That is our reality. The reality are not 3.7% unemployment rate. That is the reality. You know, when they murdered 9-year-old Jamal Modest, what was he guilty of? The little boy was playing in the savannah, in Enterprise. That is what he was guilty of. And that is what we are putting up with today. And the government sits there in their shoe and they wonder. So I have to say now, if this government is doing anything about it, they have to be complicit. No, this can't be right. You can't tell me you come in here and sit down and talk all this confusion, and you're not telling me when we get in the pepper spray, when we gonna have, the cameras, because these are simple things that the government could do. And worst of all, the scanners. Somebody letting the guns and the cocaine pass. The police is saying that 85% of the crime is committed by what? Guns. And they're passing through where? The legal ports. And we know that. Every one of them know that. And they're allowing that to happen. Shame. Shame. 600 murders last year. And the statistic is we on track to meet and beat that this year. This year. Yes. And we come here talking about 3.7%. Yes. We on track to beat that. They killed a little 9-year-old boy. 6-year-old Kylie Maloney in her bed, where every 6-year-old girl should be at 2:05 a.m. in the morning. Safe, supposedly. Who breaking? Gunman breaking. Long ago, I remember growing up in Tobago, and they will force you on Christmas Eve night to go and sleep. Because Santa is coming. Yes. And you're looking forward to Santa and Dancer and Prancer. Now it's Santa, Dancer, Prancer, and Murder for little children. Yes. That is what is going on in this country, and those are the statistics, those are the markers we have to be looking at. Not this fake thing to make who feel good, because people know, because we are hearing about the rate of employment is full employment, and there's about 1,000 Trinidadians on in the sun looking to go Guyana. So, Mr. President, people are not born to kill other people. As President Mandela had said, people are not. People have to be taught to hate. So how did we get here? Now that we have found ourselves in this hopeless place, what are we to do? Senator Suniti Miraj, and I commend her for her intervention last Friday. She made a point that we have to get to the source, the fundamental. That is what we in the UNC have been advocating. It takes work, hard work, necessary work. And Senator Paul Richards spoke about the document again when they show up in the compound. That was there, the youth at risk was there. They never used it. Because what do? They take all the work of the opposition, the then government opposition, for malevolence, for hatred, for spite, for some kind of fake vengeance. They weaponize it to do things that make no sense. Well, alternatively, when Kamla Prasad Bisesa, the Honorable, was Prime Minister, and knew that the people who visited the San Fernando General Hospital were sleeping in the corridors of San Fernando General Hospital. 4 days, they're just like it's happening at Mount Hope. They have a little lala now about, how wonderful it is in healthcare. But they were sleeping on the corridor. What happened? There was a base building that had been constructed by the previous Prime Minister. Did she tear it down? Did she demonize it? No. She did none of those things. What did she do? She said, let us repurpose this and create a bed tower. And out of that, in 18 months, there was a bed tower with 216 beds to serve the people of this country. That is what you do with power. Right? You don't sit down and talk and trade insults and so on. People don't study that. You know, we go toe-to-toe with you all any day. We are about the people's business. She created, with the government of the day, created a bed tower, and it was completed, what? In 18 months. On time, people were moving in there. On top of that, at the base of that building, has 40,000 square feet of teaching space. So there was an arrangement with the Royal College of Surgeons of, I think, Ireland and Wales, to provide training, postgraduate training for the medical staff. What that is, healthcare is big business. That is Forex. People from all over would have been doing that. I don't know what they're doing there now. They must have old mattress and bedpan stored there, if I know this government. Right? 40,000 square feet of space. Similarly, with the Couva Children's Hospital, that was another remarkable facility. Complete. Right? It was at the stage of commissioning. Binders were being handed over, had been handed over, as a matter of fact, with warranties and guarantees and so on. And they kept that locked for 5 years. As if they're doing the opposition something. It's the people of Trinidad and Tobago who are doing something. Because while that is closed, the people in the surrounding areas, they had a fight up in Mount Hope and San Fernando, passing this spanking new hospital. And what do? They take somebody who must be a friend to give a consultancy to tell them what to do with the hospital. What do you do with the hospital? You open it. If you want to, because it already had all the furnishings and equipment, it was fully outfitted. You couldn't then repurpose it into a hotel or a university campus. You had to keep it as a hospital. So all you had to do was open it. The staff was being trained, the nurses, doctors, other ancillary staff were being trained to work out of that hospital. And just kept it closed. Whilst the government of Trinidad and Tobago, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, had to continue to pay for it and suffer. You know, it makes no sense, Mr. Vice President. So, in the budgetary allocation, the Ministry of National Security has been allocated 6.912 billion. Last year it was 5.798 billion. So they are not starved for funds. And Mr. President, Mr. Vice President, we have to be upfront with the public with respect to crime. I know that there's been a lot of commentary and varied opinions about who is responsible and what the opposition should be doing. The hard truth is the government is responsible for safety, not the opposition. It is the government. The Parliament, Mr. President, gives the UNC no power, no authority, and no resources to fight criminal activity. What we do have is a moral responsibility as elected officials to come up with plans and ideas that we can share with the public and the government, and this we have been doing. We have been doing so all over the country, from constituency to constituency. Mr. President, they killed my children for nothing. The gut-wrenching cry of the mother, Ms. Anissa Mohammed. Her 4 children were killed in their bed. Again, it appears as if a bed is the most dangerous place for any child in Trinidad and Tobago to be. Kill them. And we are still keeping the borders open. Something has to be wrong. We still come in here and talk about people at jobs. Because job is a crime-fighting tool. You see, I don't know this government feel they could shoot their way out of crime, or they could pray their way out of crime, but it's a lot of work. And the work was started a long time ago. And as I said, this particular piece of research with prescriptive measures was an excellent piece of work. As I said, Senator Paul Richards spoke about it. I had spoken about it prior. It had, chaired by the Honorable, now deceased, Professor Selwyn Ryan. And they said, when the recommendations address the need for economic equity, differentiated curricula, the importance of basic life skills, and the holistic development of the individual. It calls in particular for the continuation of the work that was initiated by the Ministry of Justice. Well, there's no longer a Ministry of Justice, right? It's a Ministry of Vengeance that seeks to, yeah, that's what they have. Because the Ministry of Justice was important in this fight, you know, and that it seeks to liberalize the prison system to make it more humane. The committee, that committee, presents a comprehensive model of educational reform that features national service and service training, along with strong parent and community involvement in schooling. And it goes on and on. Very, very detailed report. What did they do? I don't know if they threw it away. What they did with it. But this was an important document, a good jump-off point. But everything that, as I said, they believe that they just show up on the compound and they not reach, and basically they enlarge and in charge, you know. Mr. President, the fallout is all around us. And yet, like the hapless ostrich, the government continues to bury their head in the sand. In yesterday's newspapers, that is Sunday, it was reported that there has been over 10,000 reports of child sex abuse in 8 years. And I didn't put 8 years, that's what the paper said. You know, they cited 8 years as their baseline. Mr. President, educational psychologist Dr. Margaret Naked Chatur, Naked here, children and teenagers are exposed to physical assault. This is in Trinidad and Tobago. Sexual victimization, maltreatment, and in many homes, they may witness violence against family members. Repeated exposure places children at a greater risk for repeating those behaviors. And then, you know, they go on to say official statistics show that between 250 and 300 rapes occur every year in Trinidad and Tobago. Something is wrong with us. It looks as if we had to close down Trinidad and start all over. Because these things are just going on, and there is no concern, no apparent concern from the government. Last week, another semi-nude body was found in the highway. At the time, it was believed to be a 22-year-old. They have reference to name in the papers, but I wouldn't do that here. Because although the body was found, and some kind of gold chain was next to it, the mother in yesterday's papers was saying, she's hoping the child comes home. 23 years. And this is just a regular occurrence where we find our young women cut into pieces like chicken, decomposing in the road. And this government don't care about anything because they pass in a bush with a security guard and the blue light hustling me around the savannah when I walk. You know? Yet the government prefers to leave the Debe campus closed with vine growing all over it. That's an explicit infrastructure that they should have just said, thank you, Kamla. That was there for academics. So not all parents could pay for their child to travel up to St. Augustine or pay for accommodation for them. It would have made it more equitable that children from another part of the country would not have had that burden. But even more important is that a major part of that facility, that infrastructure, was to train Trinidad and Tobago Police Service officials. Train them in forensics. Train them because our police need to be trained. You know, and again, training, education is a major earner of foreign exchange. Because when you have the redundancy, what do? You sell it. You don't sell it, but you throw it away. You know.
For them, yeah.
For them, exactly. People all over the world showing you how you do this business. It's not something you have to think about. It's something that people are doing all over. It is there for anybody to copy. But it takes all of us, Mr. Vice President, committed to the ideal that we are better than this. And finally, that same Youth at Risk Committee placed its deliberation and recommendations for development in a concept of human and citizen security, noting that violent crimes brings with it a critical cost to society. It brings a critical cost to society through its loss of human, industrial, and social capital. So everybody paying a price for this crime, you know. It's not only the tea and tech rate increase, you know. This security is a big bill. In St. Anne's, for instance, they had some security that probably was, I don't know. And they had to hold up. You know what is their response to that now? They're locking everybody outside the gate. So you have to wait until after 7 to drive in. I'm watching to see what they'll do for Christmas. I hope the Minister of Trade gives Jearlean a call. Because they don't care the people suffering. You know why? They are following the government. This is not a government of empathy. And again, as we say in management, an organization takes on the DNA of the leader. So the leader ain't cared. So nobody cared. Nobody don't think they have to care. Nobody, because nobody's holding them accountable. Nobody's holding them accountable. You understand? So they just don't care. Having that, I want to make one last point about that work. They had that wonderful piece of work chaired by the eminent professor. They didn't use it. When you had that eruption in Mover, I think in 2022 or thereabouts, of course the government spoke people. It was the UNC. I don't even know what we have in Mover. But when it was spreading all over across the urban areas, the cabinet, the Prime Minister and his cabinet then decided they are going to have some group calling themselves, they had some group that they put together saying that these people are going to be the one to community recovery program for areas in Trinidad and Tobago requiring special attention. That's what the godly Dr. Rowley says. The Dr. Rowley said he understood the frustration felt by protesters, referencing a program successfully set up in 2004, and he announced he going to relaunch the program. He said, I will not dissuade. He said the program won't just focus on East Port of Spain, but that's where it will start. I will not be dissuaded by any person who believes that this has to do with race, religion, or geography. This has to do with peace, security, and good honor, and opportunity for all the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Dr. Rowley says it is only right that residents in those areas get a fair shot at success, something that has been far from their grasp so far. Most people, again, the Honorable Prime Minister, in those areas have the same ambition, require the same service, require peace and prosperity. So hotspot and dismiss it. So hotspot and dismiss is not how we'll approach it, as special areas requiring special attention. Anything was done? Nothing was done. Right? Nothing has happened. True to form, these people were let down by their government, just empty words and short-term grasping at straw, just to distract the national consciousness, because as with everything with this government, nothing happens, nothing is done, especially when it is something to help our most vulnerable citizens in crisis. Now, whose fault is that? These folks who have voted solidly and loyally for the PNM since independence have now found themselves between love and a hard place. And I hope in 2025 or before, they're going to remember, not for sorry for Magadag, because Magadag just turn around and bite you. The long and short, Mr. President, the only jobs available, the only jobs where you have full employment is gravedigger and funeral agency people. Because that's the only thing that is going up. Murder. Last year, it was a 12% detection rate with a murder rate of approximately 605 victims. This means 72 were solved, and the families of 533 victims are still awaiting closure, as in the case of Mr. Junior Emmanuel, who randomly called me, I think in 2020, because his 20-year-old daughter, Shade Emmanuel, disappeared after leaving home in 2018. Now, Mr. President, Prime Minister says he's damn vexed, and I'm not being unparliamentary, I'm just repeating what was said in the other place. I walked in the rain, me, not the Prime Minister, me. I walked in the rain in Mamaral with the family of Shade Emmanuel. Not that I knew her, but the family in pain. And the only thing I could have done, they were having a walk through with lights, candle, to see if the government could catch the government's eye. Why? The young lady disappeared in 2018. 2020, they were still waiting. They had found some piece of material which the father identified as being her skirt. And they were waiting on forensics. 2 years after. Still waiting. And 3 years after. And 4 years after. And 5 years after. Just to give that family peace of mind. This government of complicity will not even raise a finger to do that. Nothing. Last December, Marilyn Emmanuel, the mother of Shadi, in a newspaper interview said, if she had one wish for Christmas, they would ask the same thing she wanted for the past 4 years at that time, to see her daughter again. This government could find a phone.
Senator, you have 5 minutes remaining.
Jesus Christ, this time went so quickly. They could find a phone. A phone more important than Shadi. Yes. You understand? Yeah. They could find a phone. Yeah. mobilize all the resources of national security to find a phone. And not only the family phone, you know. They find friend phone also after, not too long after. Some member of the media, remember that? Yeah. Who got a big job at TSTT. Family, friends, and finances. This is all that consumes this government. As long as they're good, they're good.
That is it.
Sade's mother could jump every time a car pull up. Every time the phone rings, it doesn't matter to them. Miss Mohammed, they killed my children for nothing. 4 children. And we don't care. We are not hearing it in terms of how what you have to do in your ministry will help to resolve this problem. We can't just be spending money because, as the mother said, she knows Sade is not alive. Because if she was alive, she said they were so close, she would have called her. She would have come to her. Mr. President, the same with Miss Anissa Mohammed, the same with the little girl, 13 years, Andrea Lallan. Terrible. Went to report a rape, and then they killed her and her uncle. And this is what this government is telling us is so wonderful that we should celebrate. It's a good budget, and we've vexed because they have a wonderful budget. You know. The honorable leader of the opposition, Mr. President, in the other place said, very eloquently, very, very eloquently, she stated budget 2024 ignores the realities facing our citizens completely. The brutal, violent crime crisis was mainly ignored. This government fails to understand that there can be no prosperity without safety and security. The honorable leader of the opposition said the budget is irrelevant. It is irrelevant because even as I speak today, even as we are here comfortably ensconced in this chamber talking highfalutin talk about the economy, some innocent citizen will be robbed and murdered. And that's our reality. There is a war on the outside. Criminals are at war with innocent citizens whom the government have left the citizens to fend for themselves. There can be no prosperity without safety, and our people are not safe. So, Mr. President, work is a crime-fighting tool. It has no magic in it. Education is a crime-fighting tool. And this government has literally closed down the construction sector, and just about every sector is under pressure, the oil and gas sector. And with the coming increase in the tea and tech rates, Dr. Valmiki Ajun said the exacerbated cost of living through these raised hikes mean that part of the added purchasing power coming from the increase in the minimum wage for those in the lower income bracket will be eroded. So they give with one hand and they have taken back. They take back several times over. People are in crisis, Mr. President. So as I wrap up, the Minister of Education has said that there is some plan, some partnership with the private sector. I tell the private sector doing good is good for business, and profitability and development are not incompatible. On the contrary, private enterprise should apply the ingenuity, innovation, entrepreneurial drive, and goal-oriented approach employed in commercial pursuit to national and regional development. Not just sit down there and take concession from the government and mop up all the forex, right? Give back. Why? Because we are all in this together, and there can be no prosperity without security. Mr. Vice President, I thank you.